Hello everyone, and welcome back to more SRL Formula One racing here on the official SRL Racing League channel. And today we are here for round 10 of the Formula One World Championship, and we are back at where it all began back in the 50s. We are, of course, at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. And as per usual, we are just waiting for people to join the session and pick their respective teams. And Alessandro Iorca in the live chat saying hello to you as well. We look forward to seeing you out on track, because according to, as I suspected, according to the information I have been given, we have a couple of reserves here today as well, substituting, as we always have, I want to say. But I thought before we get into this session, just as we are readying up, we usually do the grid rundown, but we can do that during qualifying just quickly, because I wanted to bring up the championship standings, something we haven't had a proper look at. Pretty much ever since round one. But obviously with last week's result, a beautiful victory for Tim Venting at home soil. If you haven't watched that race, I would highly suggest that you do that. But that means he closes the championship gap out in front. At the moment it is Jerome Adamaco out in front in the championship. He is on 157 points at the moment, and Tim Venting with that victory closes it down to a manageable gap. I want to say he is currently sitting in P2 on 124 points, and then in P3 we also have a bit of a battle going into this race, because at the moment Nicola Falsaresi on 109 points is only a measly 10 points ahead of the man in P4 in the championship, who is the reigning world champion Jensen Randall. So maybe we will see a bit of a battle between those two today for P3 in the drivers' standings as it stands right now. And then there's a bit of a gap down to P5, which is currently Sandro Dooley's. He sits on 76 points at the moment, and he is closely followed by Jamie Jägerström on 68 points in P6. Then we have David Russo on 45 points in P7, and then P8 it is Pablo Baz in the Alpine, 38 points. Majority of those points obviously came at the Spanish Grand Prix, where he took his first victory in SRL. Then we have George Wilkes in P9. He's on 31 points. And then we have the top 10 rounded out by Thodoris Samanidis on 30 points. The same points tally as the man in P11, Alexei Koivoniemi. And then there's a big gap between P11 and P12. Jesper Lempinen in 12th with 18 points. Closely followed by Andrea Latrella on 17 points. As a matter of fact, last race out, Lempinen overtook Latrella in the standings. So there is maybe a bit of a battle going on here. Then we have Vincenzo Torre in P14 with 11 points. Max Molder, who unfortunately is not participating, as far as I've heard, for the remaining part of the season, but he sits in P15 with 10 points. And then it is Jack Richards, who has been doing a good job of substituting here and there. He is also on 10 points in P16. Then we have the Ethiopian Freya Bile in P17 on 8 points. And then Dion Stahl in 18th on 7 points. So the Ferrari driver not having the best of starts to the season. Then we have Harley Collins in P19 with 6 points. And the last of the visible drivers on the driver standings, because we obviously only do the top 20, is Nick van Gelder for the Red Bull outfit, also on 6 points. So those are the championship standings in terms of the drivers. And going into this race, I've heard rumors that we might see some battles between the respective drivers. And we obviously look forward to that. And everyone who's in the live chat, I do welcome you in. I hope you're having a wonderful Saturday here today. And we are shortly going to get going, I think. We have a pretty stacked grid. And, you know, we just have the time right now. So let's just run through it. Sandro Dooley's in the Ferrari, as always. Pablo Bas will be taking part once again. He's competing for Alpine. Then we have Robin Herstadhagen, the always reliable Herstadhagen in the Haas. Then we have George Wilkes in the Aston Martin. Reigning four-time champion Jensen Randall returns once again. He didn't have the best of races last time out in Zandvoort. Hopefully he can maybe turn things around a little bit here today, but he will be in the McLaren as usual. Same goes for Alexei Koivuniemi in the usual Alpine, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do. Then we have Jesper Lempinen in the V-Carb. As we are ready to get going here, then we have Jack Richards in the Kick-Sauber. He is substituting today. Nick van Gelder in the Red Bull. Ivan Brito in the Mercedes. Then we have David Russo. Been a while since we've seen the Romanian. Good to see him back in the Aston Martins. Then we have Samanides in the Sauber. And we are going to run out of time here. But Dion Stahl, as always, in the Ferrari. Christian Dorman, again, a driver we haven't seen that much of this season. And hopefully he can have a good race today, the German. And speaking of another German, as we'll see once we get onto the live feed, Jerome Adamaco missed last race in Zandvoort, and ultimately what has meant that Tim Venting has closed the championship gap, as we spoke about. But he is back today in the Mercedes, and he will be looking to do his very best to try and defend the championship lead. And then we have Alessandro Yorka. I just saw he is competing for V-Carb today, so hopefully the Greek can do a good job here today. He, as far as I remember, retired last time out. Very unfortunate. Then we have the two Williams, as you can see at the bottom there of the driver list. Falsaresi and Jägerström. They had a very, very solid race last time out. And 19 drivers today. It is, as we spoke about, a pretty stacked grid here today. And yeah, let's just quickly get some telemetry here. People are obviously going to be on... oh, that's not the... I should know by now how this works, but apparently no. As the first driver out, I do suspect that might be Jensen Randall, and it is. And the McLaren's running a special livery here today. They have swapped the black on the car for chrome. So we are going to see the chrome McLaren head out onto the track here right now, and it looks beautiful. It is a beautiful car, but Jensen Randall, the home hero here today, looking to bounce back on what can only be described as a bit of a downer in Zandvoort. Had some issues with his steering wheel and with his pedals, ultimately meant that he had to settle for P7, might have been P5 in the end, I'm not quite sure, but not the result that he would have wanted. Would ideally have been looking for a podium in that race, and probably also had the speed for it, but unfortunately it didn't come good for him at Zandvoort. But maybe we'll see a home victory here today for the Briton. Who knows? Everything can happen in these races. But as he's heading through Mackett, Beckett and Chapel, here leading on to the big straight here, the Hangar Straight, I'm pretty sure it's called. I could be mixing them up. I'm not very good with the different corner names and the different names that they have given the different straights here. But Jensen Randall around the final 2 corners here. Let's see what he can do on his first flying lap attempt. We're just going to follow him here. And into turn 1, Samanidis has retired from the session. I do not know why that is, but seems to have been in the pits. So he will be starting quite far down. But into Sector 2, coming on to the first of the 2 DRS straights that we have here at Silverstone. Jensen Randall with a 27.05. Not really sure what that is in terms of the competition, what kind of strength that is, but we'll see. This next corner coming up, we obviously all know the name of. It's Copse Corner. And in qualifying, at least, you take this corner flat out. And then into Mackett's, Beckett's, Chapel. Majority of this complex is also flat on qualifying pace. And Jensen Randall a 1:02 so far from the first 2 sectors. Obviously purple through the first 2 sectors. No one has posted a lap time yet. Oh, and he's invalidated. He's run wide into the corner at the end of the straight. So he's going to have to go again. Does the Briton? Let's pick up... who should we pick up? Let's pick up Adamako here. On his way to his first flying lap. Jack Richards posts the first flying lap, but Jerome Adamako immediately improves that lap time to a 1:25.821 and takes, at the moment, provisional pole. So the German who missed last race, looking to do his very best to put a spanner into the work of things for the championship protagonists. Let's pick up Tim Benting here. Comes around the final corner. He is a fair bit off Jerome's lap time here on his first attempt. Meanwhile, Alessandro Iorca has posted the 3rd fastest lap so far. Falsaresi slots into P4. Alexei Koivuniemi in P5 and Dion Stahl at the moment in P6. Jesper Lempinen jumps to P7. Let's pick up... who should we pick up? Let's pick up Sandro Dulis here. He has just begun his first flying lap attempt, and I do think he might get a good slipstream down this first DRS straight. We saw the other Ferrari here. Oh, very close between the two. Bit of a miscommunication between the Ferrari boys there. That can only have cost him a bit of time. So not the best execution there from the Maranello squad. But he continues onwards. We usually see these two working together pretty well, so... Bit of an unfortunate one there from Stahl to block Dulis the wrong way. But as we said, Dulis continues. Oh, he takes a lot of curb there. That can't have been the best. But he is purple in Sector 2. So it's not all bad. Going into the final sector here, he just needs to stay within track limits. And let's see what the Greek Ferrari driver can do here. At the moment it's a 1:25.8 that's to beat. I doubt we're going to see that. It is P8, a 1:27 flat, just behind his teammate. So Dulis is going to have to do better than that. A bit of... let's see. Let's pick up... see if we can find him here. Not used to so many cars on track. Christian Dorman. Currently sitting in P13. The last of the drivers who have actually posted a lap time. Let's see what the German can do here. Into Mackett's Beckett's. The other McLaren. And not the best of run there. He has taken 9 seconds off his current fastest lap, but the current fastest lap is a 1:42, which around Silverstone is not the best lap time. Let's see what the number 21 can do here through the final corner. Let's see if he improves. He improves 1 position over Herstadhagen. Gets a little bit closer to the competition in front of him. Meanwhile, let's pick up Nick van Gelder. He is currently coming around to start his first flying lap attempt. So let's see what the other Red Bull can do. At the moment, the Red Bull of Tim Ventink in P2. Let's just get the gaps to the leader. At the moment, 4 tenths to Adamako. And Van Gelder runs a little bit deep there into turn 3. Heads on to the first DRS straight. Let's see what he can do. It's a 27.8, so it's not... at the moment he is probably sitting around P6. If he continues like this. I could be wrong. He could pick up pace here. Let's see. Through Kopp's corner. Doesn't go too aggressive on the inside curb there. Just wants to have a clean lap here. And he obviously knows what it takes. A bit unstable there, the Red Bull. You can see twitching a little bit through that complex. He gets a little bit of a slipstream here from the V-carb. So that's going to help him a little bit. Heading into the final couple of corners here. And through the penultimate corner into the final corner. Let's see what the other Red Bull can produce. At the moment, he's dropped a lot of time over the course of the lap and he slots into P10. But a lot of activity at the moment out on track. Let's pick up... who should we pick up? Let's pick up Jensen Randall here. He is coming around the final couple of corners here. Let's see what he can do. First flying lap attempt. And his provisional pole. So he improves Jerome Adamako's lap time by 4.5 tenths. On his real first attempt. Here in qualifying at the British Grand Prix. Good to see there's a lot of support for the different drivers in the live chat. Go Jesper. And we do know that Lempiden has a lot of fans here in SRL, so good to see that he is being supported well. Let's cut to Jack Richards here, the only remaining not V-carb, Sauber at the moment, Kick Sauber, and he is currently on a flying lap attempt. So let's see what the lime green car can do. And Richards has had a pretty decent start to life here in SRL. Has produced a couple of points finishes. Has been a good substitute for the teams that he has substituted for. Not usually a high amount of points, but he is a very reliable driver. And he gets... clean run there, past the Red Bull into the final couple of corners. Let's see what the Briton on home soil can do. He jumps to P10, so that's pretty decent from Jack Richards. Let's pick up Jamie Jägerström, running that very beautiful Golf livery that we saw in Azerbaijan as well. Obviously, I wasn't there, unfortunately. So props to Nick van Gelder for covering commentator's duties in Azerbaijan. But that beautiful Golf livery making its appearance here at Silverstone once again. And the Dane is on a tear right now. He's had some really good finishes over the last couple of races together with his teammate Nicolo Falsaresi. And... the fruits of that work is starting to show, as he does invalidate, unfortunately. But the fruits have shown, and they have taken the lead of the Constructors' Championship following last race. So doing fairly solid for themselves, as we cut to the other Williams, who's also invalidated the fastest lap attempt. Very unfortunate. Let's pick up Jerome Adamaco. He is on a flying lap attempt. Doesn't really benefit from any slipstream there from the Sauber. And he is at the moment improving ever so slightly. But he only needs a small improvement to potentially grab pole position. But it's the championship trio out in front at the moment. It does improve the lap time, but doesn't improve the position. Gets a little bit closer to Jensen Randall though. So maybe we will see a good attempt from him at some point. Venting at the moment not on a flying lap attempt that will grant him any improvement, unfortunately for him, as he heads to pit road. So obviously not going to be improving anything. Let's pick up George Wilkes. I think he might be... I just need to check my statistics before I say the next line, and he is the last of the 3 Britons that we haven't put on camera so far. So 3 Britons here today for the British Grand Prix. Always good to see a home hero appear here at the different tracks. We saw last time out we have had a flurry of different Dutch drivers who participated in the Dutch Grand Prix last week. Obviously the most prominent ones being Tim Venting and Niek van Gelder, who both are respective champions of this specific championship. So very good to see, but it does not compare in any way to what Jensen Randall has produced over the years here in SRL, as George Wilkes, much like the rest of the grid, heading to pit road. So let's cut to Pablo Bas instead. But yeah, the history of SRL in terms of British drivers, there hasn't been that many, if my memory serves me correctly, but those who have participated in SRL, they've gone on to do very, very solidly. And names that spring to mind instantly, obviously being Cameron Weston Edwards, probably the most prominent name of the Brits who isn't present anymore in SRL, unfortunately. It's Pablo Bas as well, heads to pit road. But yeah, Cameron Weston Edwards, what a driver. Driver who was always aggressive, who always right on the line, very good defensive driver, and also a good friend, has to be said. So we miss him dearly. Louis Quinlan, also someone who we have seen a couple of times this year, probably most prominently in the GT3 series. He's participated a couple of times there, but he is also someone who has a very, very strong track record in the Formula 1 Championship. And shout out as well to Rhys March, who also, much like the other two as Niek van Gelder, improves a position with that attempt. Rhys March, obviously also someone who's picked up a podium in the Formula 1 World Championship. So shout out to him as well. But we get ready to get going here again. Drivers are heading out onto the track as we have 1.5 minutes remaining here in this qualifying session. Jensen Randall starts what I can only assume, if everything goes according to plan, will be his final attempt here in qualifying. The good thing about starting a lap so late though, or the time that he's chosen to do it, if he does make a mistake early on in the lap, he can break off and recharge and still get a lap attempt. But purple sector 1 for Jensen Randall. So he looks to be improving once again. But it's definitely not over yet. As we see, the majority of the grid, I think actually all of the grid is out on track right now. As Randall, oh, very close to the edge there, through Cobb's corner, but keeps it between the white lines. Then Mackett's and Beckett's. Let's see what he can do here, as he will actually, he'll pick up a good slipstream here from, I think that is Dion Stahl in the Ferrari. So very solid planning from Jensen Randall, and if he keeps this clean, this is going to be a good improvement for his qualifying efforts. But through the final corner, it's going to be a small improvement of 3.5 tenths. Takes him down to a 25.029. And Jerome Adamaco's Sector 1, he is slightly down on his lap time. So at the moment, Jensen Randall provisional pole qualifying has commenced. Final lap attempts are being put in here right now. As we see Adamaco, we're going to keep tabs on all of the other drivers, but let's keep close eye on Adamaco. Alessandro Yorca into P4. Very solid from the Greek, as Adamaco has posted the purple Sector 2. As David Russo jumps into P2. Great stuff by the Romanian in the Aston Martin. But Adamaco through the final corner. Is this going to be enough? Let's see. It's not even enough for P2. And what about Tim Venting? We haven't seen what type of lap time he is on at the moment. But David Russo with the surprise. Tim Venting does not manage to get Jensen Randall. So Jensen Randall for his home Grand Prix is on pole position. And David Russo, out of nowhere really, has snuck his Aston Martin into P2. So very solid from the Romanian there. And Jerome Adamaco, we did see it. That Sector 1 could have been what ended up costing him that pole position, or maybe even just P2. But very, very exciting stuff. But Jensen Randall, home hero, is on pole position for the British Grand Prix. And drivers are just heading back to the pits right now, as we are waiting. But yeah, very close between the different drivers here at Silverstone. 3 tenths is what separates pole position from P2, and then it is very close moving down the grid. And shout out to Alessandro Iorca in P5. Very solid qualifying. But his efforts were not enough, at least in qualifying. So here is the starting order for today's Grand Prix. Jensen Randall takes pole position ahead of David Russo. Then it is Adamaco in P3 ahead of Venting. Then Iorca, Falsaresi, Dulis, Wilkes, Brito with a good qualifying ahead of Koivuniemi. Jägerström with a bit of a disappointing one ahead of Dion Stahl, Pablo Bas. Then it is Richards, Van Gelder, Lempinen, Dorman, Herstadhagen and Theodoros Samanidis, who didn't get to post a lap time even. So he will start from the back of the grid. But that is qualifying. The 19 drivers have battled it out individually on lap times, and now they get to battle amongst themselves. And look at those clouds. That looks like rain to me. And wouldn't it just be fitting here for the British Grand Prix that we're going to have some rain? So that will be very interesting to see what kind of tyre strategy the different drivers are going with. Obviously, we don't know the forecast, but the different drivers do know. And on the live chat saying, yes, we're really disappointed me now. Gonna have to chat with him later today. Yeah, there was a bit of there was a couple of drivers who I wouldn't necessarily say disappointed me, because the field is so competitive here in SRL, especially once you get closer to the front. But especially Jägerström and Lempinen, yeah. They definitely did surprise me for all of the wrong reasons, so hopefully they can have a good race today for their own sakes. But a lot of waiting time here, so that could hint at potentially that we're gonna have some rain at some point. Let's see. But Jensen Randall, pole position. We can see the majority of the grid starting on mediums all the way down to P9. We have a couple of hard runners in between, and Herstadhagen has gone for the softs. But Randall will start from pole position ahead of David Russo in the Aston Martin. And it is Jerome Aramaco in P3. He is going to be directly behind Randall's McLaren once they line up on the grid. And then we have Venting in P4. But very close between the top four, definitely. And then we have Alessandro Yorca in P5. A very solid qualifying from the V-Carb substitute here today. And then he is ahead of Niccolo Falsaresi. Also a bit of disappointment there, you could say. Or maybe it's just the top 5 being ultra competitive. In P7 we have Sandro Dulis, a fairly decent qualifying actually, I think, from what we've seen over the course of the season from him. In P8 we have George Wilkes, also a fairly solid performance from him. Someone who could definitely be happy with his performance in qualifying is Ivan Brito, starting inside the top 10 on what can only be described as an ultra competitive grid. And he is ahead of Alexei Koivaniemi, who himself is ahead of the other Williams of Jamie Jägerström, who doesn't usually start from these low positions. It's not something we're used to seeing, so let's wait and see what he can do as the tyre strategy. Expected to be a 2-stop if we have clear weather all the way through. But I do suspect that might not be the case. Dion Stahl in P12, and then it is Baas and Richards in 13th and 14th. Van Gelder in P15. Lempiden all the way down in 16th. So as you do say, a bit of a disappointment. And we have Dorman, Herstadhagen and Samanidis rounding out today's starting grid. But let's get ready to get going here at Silverstone. The drivers are lining up, and here we go. So we are just waiting for the 5 red lights. Here they come, and once they go out, the British Grand Prix is go! And it is a decent start from Jensen Randall, cuts across David Russo. Russo swings to the outside. Doesn't really work for him, but he retains P2. As I say that, oh, there's contact between a couple of drivers further down the grid. And I do think we might have seen a couple of drivers drop further down. Dion Stahl has picked up a couple of penalties. Has there been any exchange of bodywork? Further down we see one of the Red Bulls, that is Nick van Gelder, sliding his way through Sector 1. And Jesper Lempinen has had a shocker of a start here. Same goes for Ivan Brito. So I do wonder, was there contact? But out in front, Jensen Randall retains the lead off the start. Jerome Adamaco advances 1 position ahead of Russo. But Russo is not letting this one go. He is right on the back of the Mercedes. We see Pablo Baas is dropping a lot of spots. He has looped it around, I think, as he picks up a 10-second time penalty. Severe collision with Herstadhagen. Oh dear. So that is going to make things a little bit more difficult for the Spaniard. But we can see Russo putting on the pressure here. didn't really particularly enjoy the fact that Jerome Adamaco took P2 away from him. And coming around, oh, look at this! Slicing and dicing is the Romanian, trying to get past the Silver Arrow for P2. Meanwhile, Tim Venting at the moment just sitting behind for now, as DRS has now been enabled. This is going to make things a little bit more tricky for the man in the lead, Jensen Randall, because he is obviously the first of the drivers who doesn't have the DRS. And Adamaco, as always, looking ominous, looking feisty here today, heading through Cobb's Corner. He is closer to Randall than Russo is to him at the moment. See him move for P12. That is, Dooley is making his way back up past Christian Dorman. And let's see what happens here now. If Adamaco has saved up a lot of battery, if he's going to try and go for a move, he's too far back this time around, so it doesn't work out for him. But David Russo sticking with the German in the Mercedes. And it looks like through the low speed corners that Russo is just able to get a little bit more rotation on the car than what Adamaco is capable of. We have a battle brewing as well for, that is going to be for P5, I think, between Yorka and Falsaresi. Falsaresi putting on the pressure here. At the moment, we are slowly settling in here. There's two groups that are forming, and it is from P1 to P10 running in a train, and then you have the remaining part of the grid. So I do think there might be a couple of drivers in the lower group that might have a bit of damage to their cars. We see, oh, big wide moment there for both Russo and Venting. That might have cost them a warning, so they have to be careful of track limits. But we see Russo pushing through the snaky bits, but here comes Venting. He gets a good run coming out of Chapel. Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry, it is Chapel, yes, of course. But they're still running line astern here, all the way down to P5 at the moment. Falsaresi has made that move past Alessandro Yorka and has now set his sights on the rear wing of the Red Bull in P2. Let's actually pick up the back or the front of this train right here that has split apart. It is led by Sandro Dulis, who currently sits in P11. He is at the moment 4 seconds off Jägerström, and we do have a yellow flag. Ivan Brito picks up a 3-second time penalty. That will be for exceeding track limits one too many times. And look at this, these two. Jensen Randall at the moment ahead of Jerome Adamaco, but Adamaco is slowly closing that gap. He is working his way closer to the McLaren, and the two Silver Bullets out in front here, looking to do what they can to try and extend their lead in the championship. Adamaco with the DRS, he's not close enough to get any advancement on Randall here. Top four slowly breaking away from Falsaresi in P5. Still haven't broken that gap quite yet, but we are close to that happening. At the moment, Jensen Randall currently in P1 here on lap 5. He's defended his lead so far, but I do wonder how aggressively Jerome Adamaco is going to go if we might see rain later on, because that could spice things up in a different way that we're not used to. So Let's just wait and see what happens. But at the moment, top 4 has broken away from Falsaresi, who's dropped out of the DRS of Tim Venting. So the battle for the lead seems to be between these 4 drivers, who at the moment are just trying to hunt down the leading driver, Jensen Randall. David Russo extending a little bit into Copse Corner there. But if you do it just right, you can get away with it sometimes. At least you used to be able to do that. Dorman picking up a 3-second time penalty through Copse Corner. Not the ideal thing that he would have hoped for. But it is what it is. Jamie Jägerström is dropping a couple of positions. I think he might have... Has he spun? I think he might have spun coming out of... Oh! Is there any damage to that Williams? Because that looked very strange. The front wing seems to be in one piece on the Williams. So he might just have looped it around. But he was running in P10 and he's dropped all the way down to P15. So he has his work cut out for him to try and regain those lost positions. But back out in front, it is tight as ever. David Russo at the moment under pressure from Tim Venting, but able to use the fact that he has the DRS on Adamako in front of him to very good effect. To try and defend, but we see him extending Copse Corner every single time. I do wonder if he's found an exploitation there, the Romanian. Oh, look at this, how he is capable of closing down. But this is not going to be a contest. Tim Venting pulls alongside the Aston Martin. And going down the straight, it's not enough for Venting, unfortunately. He was right there, but not able to make the move. It's a very, very solid defensive move there from David Russo to retain P3. And in the end, he didn't seem to lose that big of a gap. So we see George Wilkes has elected to pit. That promotes Alessandro Yorca into P6 and Alexei Koivaniemi P7, Jack Richards into P8, and you get the point. So the first to blink here today is going to be George Wilkes, who pits on lap 7. So we may not see rain anyway, as we expected. But the race is slowly settling down here. It doesn't look like there's going to be much movement out in front. They might just be trying to extend their tyre wear to try and get to their respective pit windows here on the medium tyres. And ultimately that's going to probably be what could decide this race. And at the moment, this is very solid from Jensen Randall, because he is currently sitting, well, virtually sitting in P3 in the Drivers' Championship from this, as far as I can tell, because he would be gaining 15 points on Falsaresi at the moment, and he is only 10 points behind the Italian in the Drivers' Championship. So Jensen Randall, with this result, if it were to finish right now, would advance one position in the Drivers' Championship. But so much can still happen. Until lap 26, we have a yellow flag in Sector 3. That is Christian Dorman, who has spun in the final corner. He gets it going again. But at the moment, apart from that, it doesn't look like there's much going on. Jamie Jägerström has made his way back up into P11. I do suspect that might be because a couple of drivers have already pitted. So he is a bit out of sync, but this is better for him. He's currently running in clean air. He has 3 seconds up to the back of Dion Stahl in front of him. So let's see what the Danish driver can do after his unfortunate... I do suspect it might have been a mistake from him, but we can obviously never be sure if... Might also have been contact, who knows? He might have been battling with someone, we don't know. But yeah, Jägerström here trying to limit the damage, but he is dropping a couple of tenths to Stahl through the past complex. It's up to 3.2 seconds at the moment, so there might be some damage to the floor of the Williams, but we don't know, obviously. George Wilkes makes his way past Christian Doorman as Doorman heads into the pits. It will be quite exciting to see what George Wilkes can make of this. Back out in front, the gap remains the same between the front four. They are sitting in each other's DRS. Jensen Randall at the moment pulling this train of four. And this overhead shot is amazing. Beautiful camera here. Camera angle here. If we could just keep it through. Ah, that's unfortunate. Oh well, you can't win them all. I was hoping we could get that overhead shot through Mackett, Beckett and Chapel, because that would be beautiful, but unfortunately not. And it looks like David Russo, yeah, he's lost DRS coming out of Chapel on Aramako as Tim Venting heads into the pits. So he is the front four who blinks first. Oh, he picks up a 10-second time penalty. Oh no, and he's done it again. So Tim Venting not doing himself any favor with that move. And that, I'm sorry to say, but I think that just leaves Randall, Aramako and Russo to fight for victory here today. Because a 10-second time penalty with these drivers, oh, that's too big of a hurdle to overcome, even for Venting. And it's an unfortunate but a silly mistake that we have unfortunately seen him make before, so it's nothing new. But again, it's not the first time we've seen these drivers make these mistakes. Randall just keeping Aramako at bay right now. I'm surprised he's managed to keep it this long. Keeping him at an arm's distance. So Venting has something to overcome here. He might be making another stop. We don't know. And let's see what tires everyone is on. So Venting went on to hard tires. He might be going to the end as Randall hits for pit road as well. Let's see if he can get it slowed down in time. And he doesn't make the same mistake as Tim Venting. So that promotes Jerome Aramako into the lead for the first time of this race. And David Russo follows Randall into the pits. That just means that Randall retains P2. Or does Samanides overtake him here? Samanides briefly jumps into P2. Dion Stahl also hasn't boxed yet, so he picks up P3 as Randall comes out just ahead of Tim Venting. Venting must have had an absolutely bonkers outlap. So the undercut almost worked for Tim Venting, but it has worked on David Russo, so good job from Red Bull there. Strategy as always. Hannah Schmidt working her working her socks off to try and mitigate this 10-second time penalty that unfortunately has been bestowed upon Tim Venting. The gap is 3.5 seconds down to David Russo. If they can just break away from the Romanian, it could end up playing good for Venting in the end. But who knows? Let's pick up Aramako. He picks another lap. So he's not pitting yet. And right now we see a couple of drivers being out of sync. Most prominently Thodoris Samanidis and Dion Stahl in P2 and 3. Stahl heads to the pits. So that means Jensen Randall and Tim Venting advances a position in their hunt for the German in the German machine out in front. And they just really need to just work together right now. Venting shouldn't be trying any silly moves or anything, because he could benefit from this if this comes good for them. But that just makes it even more annoying that he picks up that 10-second time penalty. Ah, that's unfortunate for him. But at the moment, looks like everything is under control from Jensen Randall. If everything pans out the way that it did for Tim Venting, we might see Jerome Adamaker drop all the way to P3. If David Russo is able to keep the pressure on, maybe even P4. But let's wait and see until the German pits, which is right now. So Adamaker heading into the pits. And he does not want to have any say in time penalties, so he gets it slowed down well before time. And Jensen Randall coming around the final couple of corners. As we see, Adamaker has made a stop and heading back out onto the track, but he is quite far down the pit lane. So let's see. David Russo posts the fastest lap, and he does undercut Jerome Adamaker in the process. So at the moment, very solid job from the drivers who decided to pit a little bit earlier. The undercut a little bit more powerful here around Silverstone than what we initially thought. It has shaken up the order a little bit, with Jensen Randall retaining the lead. Tim Venting promoted into P2, but is carrying that 10-second time penalty, as Ivan Brito has retired from the race. And same goes for Pablo Bas, who has also retired in the pits. So that's not going to be a safety car. But yeah, Tim Venting at the moment in P2. David Russo into P3. But with that penalty applied, Tim Venting would... I think he might actually drop... Will he drop all the way? He would drop... I think he would drop all the way down to P6 actually. So he needs to keep himself out of trouble and hope maybe a couple of the other drivers picks up something in the remaining couple of laps. We are currently on lap 13, beginning lap 14. Alexei Koivaniemi battling away with Jack Richards for P7. They are not that far behind Nicolo Falsaresi as well. So maybe there could be something here for these two if they can just pick up the pace ever so slightly. But at the moment, it's not going to finish like the order is right now, unfortunately for the drivers involved. It's Jensen Randall, he would retain the current lead. Let's look at the penalties. So, as we spoke about, Tim Venting with that 10-second time penalty. Both Ferraris have a 3-second time penalty as well. So at the moment, that would mean that Jamie Jägerström would overtake one of them if it were to finish like this. Then we have Christian Dorman with 6 seconds worth of penalties. But at the moment, that would only drop him behind Thodoris Samanidis for P15. Speaking of 15, let's begin lap 15 with number 15. Jerome Adamaco, fastest lap of the race. He is slowly but surely making his inroads on David Russo in front of him. So there might be a battle soon commencing here for P3. We have seen how aggressive David Russo can be in his battling and defense of a certain position. And it's been a long time since we've seen the Romanian driver out on track, so he will be looking for a decent result here today. And he will be defending with tooth and nail against Adamaco. But let's see, it might not even be that big of a contest. It is slowly but surely creeping towards that time. The gap is 1.8 seconds, fluctuating between 1.8 and 1.9. Adamaco with the fresher tires. Same compound, both on hard tires. So no difference there. But it just seems that Adamaco in the high-speed sections has a little bit more grip, a little bit more rotation than the remaining part of the grid. So that is currently what is pulling him slowly towards that back end of the Aston Martin in front of him. And we can see the gap is closing. 1.5 seconds now between the two. Tim Venting, meanwhile, out in front, just setting consistent lap times, I want to say. Slowly but surely making his... hoping that potentially there could be contact between the two drivers behind him and that he could potentially pick up this P2. But we don't know. He has not gone for a move on Jensen Randall so far. But who knows? Maybe that will happen. The gap between Russo and Adamaco is down to 1 seconds now. Sorry. Well, I thought I saw a move here. And it is a battle between Sandro Doulis and Alessandro Iocca. So the two Greek drivers battling it out here. And this is also for bragging rights in terms of their heritage. Both obviously representing Greece. And the bragging right would be the highest finishing Greek driver of the race. That is always something that is interesting in SRL. The competition between drivers. Jerome Adamaco posts another fastest lap. As we have a bit of a battle here. No, that's not a battle. That's just George Wilkes pitting. Meanwhile, Alexei Kovaniemi and Jack Richards as well following him into the pits. That is gonna promote this battle from battle of P8 to the battle of P6 here on lap 17. Oh, big slide there from Iocca behind. Oh, and Sandro Doulis getting all kinds of slides there on the back end of the Ferrari. And I wonder, is Iocca gonna make things very simple here? Oh, good defense there from Doulis. Iocca goes for the outside. And does he keep it? It swings to the inside. Oh, bit of contact there. Does he have the traction? No! Oh, there's more contact between them. And Doulis defends the position. At least so far. What is Iocca going to do here? Oh, he thinks about it. Maybe upsets Sandro Doulis having to look into the mirrors. Doulis slowly... is he able to defend this one? DRS for Alessandro Iocca. He's too far back, I think. And yes, he is Jesper Lempinen picking up a 3-second time penalty. At the moment, this is just helping Doulis' teammate Dion Stahl, who's currently in P8. He's closing up ever so slightly to this battle as they continue to go for it. Speaking of battles, we have a battle brewing here. For P3, Jerome Adamaco has made his way into the DRS range of David Russo's Aston Martin. And we might see a move for P3 soon, if this continues. Gap is down to 4/10, so let's see what the German can do. We've seen him on some great battles over the course of this season with these drivers. Let's see what he can do. Oh, pretty poor run there from David Russo. Didn't look like he got the best out of it, and Adamaco goes for the inside and takes P3 here on the tail end of lap 18. And his next target is the Red Bull of Tim Venting. Meanwhile, we cut back to... Oh, big slide there for Alessandro Iocca, heading out of Chapel. I was just about to say we cut back to the battle between Dulis and Iocca. I think Iocca might have opened the DRS a little bit too early, or the tyres might be giving in. He is heading for the pits though, and he picks up a 10-second time penalty. I could already have told you before that he was going to pick up a 10-second time penalty because he was carrying way too much speed into the pits. So that renders his chances of a potential good result maybe out of the window. And very unfortunate there for the Greek VCARB substitute. Meanwhile, Jensen Randall just keeping Tim Venting within DRS. And obviously this is a good tactic from Randall as well, because Venting has that 10-second time penalty. And Adamaco, even though he at the moment would inherit P2 as David Russo picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits, Adamaco would inherit P2 at the moment, but if he wants the victory, he's going to have to go past Venting first. And it's always easier to catch up to someone than it is to pass someone usually. But let's see. We don't know. At the moment they're keeping Adamaco at an arm's distance, sitting around 2.8 seconds. So he's not making the most of it at the moment. Meanwhile, we have a battle for P8. George Wilkes has caught up to the back of Jamie Jägerström, who in turn has caught up to the back of Dion Stahl. So this is a battle for P7 between these three drivers. And Jägerström has recovered fairly decently if he can keep this position. At the moment he is virtually sitting in P7 because of Stahl's penalty. But we never know what can happen until the end. Big slide there from the Williams coming onto the first DRS straight. And right now, Stahl will be looking to try and defend as hard as possible. With 6 laps remaining of this Grand Prix. It's not been the most exciting, I do have to say. Silverstone usually throws some good battles. We haven't really seen that much today, apart from a couple of decent battles, to be fair. But maybe this is the one that's going to get things heated up. We see that we follow each other through Mackets, and Chapel fairly closely. And Dion Stahl, has he just gotten that gap? Oh, we see here George Wilkes gets the drive coming out onto the straight on Jägerström and demotes the Williams to P9 and moves himself up into P8. So good driving from Wilkes there. And can he make quick work of the Ferrari? Because if that is the case, Aston Martin would score some pretty decent points here today, which would be very good for the Constructors' Championship. And I do suspect maybe we're going to see a move down this first DRS straight from George Wilkes. You see the traction difference between the two cars. Stahl not really able to plant the power as effectively as he wants to. Meanwhile, there's a big battle also here for P10, the final points paying position. Jesper Lempinen battling with his compatriot Alexei Koivuniemi, and Jack Richards is also here. But really, Lempinen is not a part of this battle because of his penalty. And Jack Richards, is he going to get the drive here on the V-Carb? He is. Oh! Lempinen thinking about throwing one to the inside there. But we have seen in the past how that doesn't always work. How it is intended. So Koivuniemi advances to P10. Here we have George Wilkes. Is he going to make this easy? He is. He swings to the inside and takes P7 away from Dion Stahl. And Jägerström, is he able to follow through on the Dutch Ferrari? The more the merrier for Jägerström in the attempt to try and defend Williams' lead in the Constructors' Championship. And these would be good points. It would be a doubling of his points tally at the moment for Jägerström. So he will be looking to maybe get that done as Alessandro Iorca picks up a track extending time penalty. But Jack Richards here for P10 hasn't let go of Koivuniemi's Alpine. And he has a second say in who finishes P10 here today. But the laps are winding down, so he's gonna have to get that move done quickly if he wants to have any hopes of picking up a point here today. But let's see. Through Beckett's and Chapel we go here. And let's see if he can get the drive, because if he can get the drive here, he will have the aid of the DRS. And it does get a pretty decent run, but it is not enough as George Wilkes picks up a penalty for track extending. That is music to Jägerström's ears. Saying that though, he's going to have to be careful not to drop too far behind. Otherwise, that penalty is not going to play into his favour. But yeah, Williams at the moment, they still, as far as I know, retain the lead in the Constructors' Championship over Mercedes. I think it is Mercedes who's in P2. I could be wrong, but I am not 100% sure. I'm not ready to die on that hill. Let's have a look. It is Mercedes who is in P2 of the Constructors' Championship. I do think if Jägerström can get it done, that could be good points for Williams, because Ivan Brito unfortunately retired pretty early on into the race, and Jerome Adamaco doesn't look like he has the necessary needs to maybe advance a couple of positions more. But he is slowly gaining on the two in front. But it doesn't really mean anything for him if he cannot get past Venting and try and launch an attack on the McLaren of Jensen Randall. Because he will inherit P2 at the moment anyway, due to Venting's penalty. But it is fairly spread out right now between the drivers. There isn't really any close battles at the moment. The closest one I think is between Stahl and Jägerström. Maybe even the two drivers behind them, Koivuniemi and Richards, as Van Gelder picks up a 3-second time penalty for track extending. That's not going to do a whole lot to his finishing position, because he's currently sitting 50 seconds ahead of the man in P17, Robin Herstadhagen. So it's not going to do anything to his race. At the moment, at least. But we see this battle here. Jägerström has lost vital seconds, or crucial seconds, to George Wilkes in not being able to get past Dion Stahl. So that's going to make things a little bit more tricky for him. But we are on the penultimate lap of this Grand Prix. I don't think it's going to come to anything for Jerome Adamaco, as Samanidis picks up a track extending penalty. But yeah, Adamaco, not quite the strategy that he would have hoped for. He would have hoped for a lot more pace. Maybe getting things done a little bit more quickly. Unfortunately, that didn't come to fruition. At least not yet. He still has a lap to do it. But ideally, he would want to be within DRS range about now. He's very close though. But the thing that is going to be tricky for him is the fact that Venting has the DRS on Randall. So it's not going to be that easy. But let's see. Who knows, maybe he's able to do it. But Jensen Randall rounds the final corner. He's going to start the final lap of this Grand Prix. It's not been the most exciting one, unfortunately, but it's been a very commanding Grand Prix from the Briton here on home soil. And if he can take a victory here today, that is going to be huge for his championship charge. As we're just going to cut to the battle here. I don't think there's going to be a battle, but it's always exciting to see what could happen. Tim Venting, he would have finished P2 if it wasn't for that 10-second time penalty that he picked up for speeding into the pit lane when he had to serve his pit stop. So that's very unfortunate for him, but at the end of the day, it's a fairly silly mistake to make. Are we going to get a move here from Adamaco? Not quite, but Adamaco, he will inherit P2 regardless of what happens here on lap 26 out of 26. We're just going to stay with these two, because I do have a feeling that we might see a move here. Who knows? Adamaco not quite there. That's unfortunate. But Jensen Randall is going to come through the final couple of corners here at Silverstone. And like Tim Venting did last week at Zandvoort, Randall is going to take a very, very sweet home victory here today. And that's going to do him very solidly for the championship standings. Jerome Adamaco, as we spoke about, inherits P2 ahead of Tim Venting, who manages to build a gap to David Russo behind him. So he does finish on the podium. But yeah, David Russo in P4. And then we have to wait a couple of seconds. Nicolo Falsaresi is going to finish P5. And Sandro Dulles, props to him. He didn't look to have the best start to the day, but he ends up salvaging what is going to be a very, very sweet P6 ahead of George Wilkes in P7. And then it is Dion Stahl in P8, but he is going to drop to P10 because Jamie Jägerström and Alexei Koivuniemi finished within 3 seconds of the Dutchman. So he is not going to retain that position. And then it is Jack Richards, Jesper Lempinen, Alessandro Jocka, Samanidis, Dorman van Gelder and Robin Herstadhagen, who finishes the grid of finishers. And then Ivan Brito and Pablo Bas, both retiring here today. Only 2 retirements. But a very sweet home victory for Jensen Randall in that chrome McLaren livery. Very, very solid drive from the Briton. And let's be honest, that just shows why he is the reigning champion. When you can take a victory, such commanding victory. Unlike real life, the trophies are not made of Lego here today. That would have been quite fun though, but we see all of the British fans celebrating their man here today. Jensen Randall, your victor here today, ahead of Adamako and Vinting. It's a very, very solid drive from Randall there. And a podium that we are getting used to by now, I want to say. But yeah, Jensen Randall picks up another victory here today and very solid 25 points ahead of Adamako Venting. And then it's Russo, Falsaresi, Dulis, Wilkes, Jägerström, Koivaniemi, and Stahl rounds out the top 10 with Richards, Lempinen, Joka, Samanidis, Van Gelder, Dorman, and Herstadhagen. All the remaining finishers, and Brito and Pablo Bas. The only two driver not to complete all 26 laps here today. So that does it for round 10 here in SRL's Formula 1 World Championship. And it does spice things up a little bit. I was afraid that we were going to see Jerome Adamako potentially take victory here today ahead of Randall and Venting, and maybe already finish the championship before it's really reached its halfway point. But damage limitation from Tim Venting here today. Regardless, but yeah, that does it here today. And I'm just trying to find a calendar because the next race you should definitely be putting in your calendars because it is a special one. For sure. It is obviously the Monaco Grand Prix, and not only that, but it is the 10-year anniversary race in SRL. So it is on the date where SRL was founded 10 years ago, and that is January 24th. So we will have a break until we see each other again, and then we get going with the crown jewel, as many people like to call it, in the crown that is Formula 1, and obviously that being the Monaco Grand Prix, the anniversary race of SRL. So put that into your calendar, January 24th. Definitely something to look forward to. I'm looking forward to it, and the whole weekend itself will be quite special. And then following that, we are going to have on February 7th the 1v1 tournament that has been quite a hit the last couple of years. Usually we used to do it between Christmas and New Year, but we elected to do it after New Year's this year because we wanted different drivers to have the time off in the holidays. And then February 14th is going to be round 12 of the Formula 1 season. It's the Hungarian Grand Prix. So a couple of races that could spice things up a little bit. It's two races and two tracks that demand the most from the drivers over the course of the Grand Prix. Monaco, obviously, because the barriers are so close and overtaking is so difficult that qualifying is essentially, well, the finishing order of the proceedings. And Hungary has the reputation of being known as Monaco without the barriers, for it being so narrow and so twisty and difficult to overtake at. So two tracks that we might not see that many overtakes at, but it sure as heck can produce some good races. So definitely something to look forward to. But that does it, as I said, for round 10. Bit of a dowsy one, I have to say. 26 laps. There wasn't that much action, but it does spice up the championship ever so slightly with Jensen Randall taking a victory here today on home soil. And let's see what he can produce over the coming races. We have unfortunately got the news that Jerome Adamako in the later stages of the season will unfortunately have to miss a couple of races. So he is obviously going to be looking to extend the lead to a point where even if he misses a couple of races in a row, that he is not going to lose the championship lead. But that is definitely something that we are going to have to look into. Tim Venting at the moment, the one driver who's sitting in a prime position that if Adamaco misses more races, that he's going to be able to pounce on the championship lead and maybe get some benefit from it. But that remains to be seen. So, yeah, as I said, January 24th, next round of the championship. It is the Monaco Grand Prix. It's going to be a very special weekend with the 10-year anniversary. So I hope to see you there. But until we go live again, I wish you all a very, very lovely Saturday. And thank you for tuning in. My name is Sam, and I look forward to covering more SRL in the future. But until we see each other again, have a lovely day and goodbye.